accidental stars, and we have Forget Me Again. Oh wow, that was a lot to think about, wasn't it? It's kind of a lot of worst case scenarios going on in here. Right. Well, right here we have Madeline Moreau, and you are up for Best Leading Actress in a Role, are you not?
I am indeed. Thank you.
Awesome. Accidental Stars. I just wanted to know, how did that work? How did you shoot those scenes? Was it chronological so you could get to that range, or no?
It was not the only. It was actually no. Actually, it was pretty chronological. The screams, however, took up the majority of the end of our shooting days. Which honestly, if you're gonna scream in a movie, guys, prep. Do vocal prep. I pray you. You're going to be doing it for 13 hours, you know.
I mean, were there a lot of takes? I mean, was she Emily, right?
No, Narissa.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
no,
Okay.
so my director, Emily
Yes,
Bennett. Yes,
yes.
my director, Emily, they're actually, we got a lot of the shots, like,
nice.
pretty immediately.
Yes.
The shooting was, it went in the blink of an eye, really. But honestly, I think that happens when you do a horror film. It seems very, very rough, which it was, but also it was the most fun experience I've ever had on set, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, it was intensely performance driven. I mean, the entire piece was performance driven. It was, and your co-actor was just amazing as well. He's up for Best Actor.
Best Actor, I have to say, every single time you see the smile reveal, it just, my stomach drops to the floor. Like, he just is an insanely incredible actor.
Right.
His name's Kyle, if anyone's wondering.
Well, I mean, in Marianne Williams, she did Stunner, beautiful, amazing DP. You are. Your body of work is just breathtaking. You've been all around the world working on campaigns, and then you land yourself in Italy. Is that what happened? And then you said, you know what? I'm going to shoot a short because I'm one of the most beautiful places in the world. Or
kind of the reverse of that. There's a program there that's focused on shooting on 35 millimeter, and I had a friend that went and did this workshop and had a good experience there. It's actually for cinematographers, but of course they need directors. And because I'm already very versed in shooting on 35 as a DP, I saw an opportunity to potentially write and direct what is my first and who knows, maybe only short film as a writer-director. And yeah, so I went there to do the project.
Oh, it was beautiful. You must have been very focused how you set your shots if you were shooting on actual film. I love that we're keeping that alive. I mean, in programs, they're doing that in Europe.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, there's opportunities out there. I mean, I think film is something that's important to me as a DP, as a photographer, and now as a director. I just find the way that it records imagery to be a lot more like how I see it in my mind. So in that way, it's a lot easier. But of course, keeping within your film budget and prepping for the shoot is a different process. You know, you just have to be a lot more careful.
Because you did have an Italian army on those credits. I mean, that was
there was a lot of
that was amazing. I mean, you know, I'd like to go to that party. That must have been awesome, right?
We had a lot of sponsors through the program. So
it seemed like you had almost a similar subject. I mean,
yeah.
If someone were to ask you, what was your film about? What was it? What were you going for?
Yeah, I mean, I guess plot-wise, I usually end up saying it's about a woman who's has an affair with her boss and gets fired. You know, that's the kind of
come on
dry version.
It's very far-fetched.
You know, that's the most realistic part of the movie.
And then that was important to you. That was the subject. Is that what you wanted?
Yeah, it's not my personal story. I actually pulled it out of the news when I was applying to the program. You have to apply with a script, and there was a pretty prominent director in the news at that moment, with a lot of stories swirling around about what being on his sets were like, and some of his affairs, and how that had affected those women's, particularly actresses, careers. And a lot of the news was treating it as a gray area. And I thought that was really interesting, that concept of it being a gray area, where it's so clearly, I mean, at least to me, it's not, but right. I think that's what hooked me into telling this story.
And you gave everything for art there. I mean, your thoughts were displaced and they were jumped. And what do you think? I mean, is that what happens to an actress? Where did you get that from? Did she tell you the tone, or did you tell her the tone? How did we get there?
My director Emily and I, she's also an excellent actress as well, and we both had very similar experiences when we studied Meisner, where we both had very controlling and emotionally abusive teachers, which kind of resulted in us kind of being in a cult in a way, because you're looking for an answer. You spend all this time looking for an answer. This is what you want. This is your dream, and you meet somebody who you think will get you there, and you trust their word and everything that they say. And one day we both woke up and we realized that they weren't right, And mine specifically was kicking people out of his class, saying some very hurtful, terrible things that I choose to forget. And one day I walk into class and I'm not emotionally prepared. And I was like, if you don't do your craft, if you do not act truthfully in an imaginary circumstance, he's going to rip you a new one, right? That's just the MO. So I go in, I'm like, okay, this is my last day in my class. This is it. It's over. And I'm sitting there. I'm ready to go up. I go up. I do my thing. I'm like, okay, this is it. Getting ready for him to tell me what I am, how terrible I am. And he sat there and he was like, that was really interesting. Wow. How did you feel? And I was so angry because I was like, but you're supposed to know when I'm not acting. You're supposed to know. You're supposed to tell me that I'm not acting truthfully in an imaginary circumstance, and you're supposed to tell me to get out. I realized he didn't have all the answers. He wasn't reading my mind. And our film is kind of the worst case scenario. It's like you reach the breaking point. You're starting to go through psychosis. You crack, right? So that's the extreme, if that makes sense. It is the actor's nightmare, the absolute nightmare. Right. Did I answer your question? Does that make sense? Amazing.
It's true.
Great.
Because I'm sure Jared, up for Best Lead Actor here at OIFF, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, there you are. You're just a guy in a diner. This is where we start, I mean,
that's how most of my drug deals start. Is usually just somebody comes up and is like, "Yo, I got some new shit."
And then we've got Noah. I mean, what are you up for, Noah? Why don't you tell everyone?
Yeah, you guys have nominated our film for Best Short, I believe.
Yes.
Best
Narrative Short.
Best Narrative Short.
Yes.
Best Screenplay.
Best Screenplay.
And Best Art Direction, and then 2 nominations for our leading actors, Jared and Eric.
Yes.
Yeah, which we're very grateful for.
I mean, that's not too bad from a kid from Encinitas, right? Are we have Encinitas in the house tonight?
We have a little bit of Encinitas in the house, I think.
Right?
Most of them are related to me.
Here.
But
I mean, that was a beautiful world-class film, truly. It had everything.
Thank you.
I mean, where did that come from? I mean, you're a student film, correct?
Yes, I just graduated from UCSB, so that was kind of my senior thesis project.
Yes.
But Jared is a professional, which is why the film is as good as it is.
I mean, is that a real pill? I mean, what is that symbolic for? What is the metaphor to that pill?
Yeah, well, where did the story come from? I guess in the summer of 2022, when I knew that my senior year was coming and that there was this program that I could make my thesis film in, I was just thinking about things to write. And in thinking about things to write, I was thinking about what got me fired up. And so some of my favorite films are Memento and Limitless and Eternal Sunshine. And I kept coming back to those, and I was like, those are so cool. I wish I could do something like that. And then I was like, well, I can try and write something, and then maybe if the script is good enough, it'll be well received by the professor. Kind of The Spotless Mind. Yeah, it's a great film. It's about this couple who choose to forget each other, and that takes place over the course of the film. You see the main Jim Carrey plays the lead act, or the main guy, and it's about his process of erasing these memories. And that was always very interesting to me because I think memory is fascinating, and who are we without our memory and with our memory? But then I was just like going down the rabbit hole of what if it was less surgical and it was more immediate, and what if you could do something like that recreationally? Like, what if you could watch your favorite film for the first time again? Because that's something that I would definitely do, I think. But then after you take that first step, where could it go? Just like any drug, some people do it for fun and some people do it for not so much fun.
Abuse.
How many drafts did you have? I mean, did you have many drafts, or did that just come out? I mean, were we in the goldenrod pages, or?
There were, I mean, there was a lot of time spent just doing random writing before I even got to like the script document, in terms of thinking of scene ideas, thinking of character ideas, thinking of different moments. But there were a lot of revisions. I think the first thing I started with was that diner scene in the beginning, just thinking of these two friends who've been kind of estranged, and how one of them could try and force this thing on this guy who is his friend, and then begin that sort of path of betrayal. But yeah, the script went through many, many revisions.
It's just so ambitious. I mean, truly from your lighting. I mean, you're lighting at night. And,
Thank you.
I mean, what did you shoot that on?
So we were fortunate enough to shoot on an Alexa Mini, which is which is our first time working with it, and it was very, very nice, especially for that night scene, because my background is as a cinematographer, and so that's something that was very important to me, was to make the film look really cool. But it's tough when you're working on a student budget. Like, we were gracious enough we were rental house in Burbank that provided us with some of this gear at a discounted rate, which was very sweet. But yeah, in that scene, that we were on top of a mountain in the middle of Santa Barbara, dealing with mudslides and rain and a whole bunch of other stuff, and there's no power out there, so we had to take a generator on top of this mountain and then wire 4 different lights in the surrounding forest, each like hundreds of yards away from each other, but they're all connected to the same generator.
Yes.
And the noise from a generator is brutal too when you're, and so it's cold, it's loud. We're just trying to stay organized between our communication and the communication of the camera department. So that was, I guess, the intent with the project was to be ambitious, because I knew that it was like my final year in school. So I was like, how can I push myself to do something that I would be proud of?
And Jared, did you read the script? How many times before you went, oh? I mean, how were those pre-production conversations going? I mean, did you have a lot of, how did that work? Because your character was fascinating, because you were almost calm, but it was amazing because there was so much tensity through your character, because you were confused as much as most people were, right? Do you know what I mean? I mean, you were just like, what is going on? Because, do you feel what I'm saying? Or?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's, when I was really thinking about particularly like the last moments of the film, and I think about like, how did I get here? Is literally the thought I had in my head. And then I know what I did, as far as like, did he take the pill or did he not take the pill? But there's definitely arguments and a convincing case for either way. And I think that's what I loved about the script initially, was that ambiguity. And but I mean, as far as like the whole process, like Noah sent me the first draft. He called me like, what was it, like 2 months after we finished like the Moon premiere or whatever?
Yeah, we had, so Jared, this is our second project together. Our first project was a short film that I directed my junior year, and so we had a great time on that. And so as soon as that film was finished, I called him pretty short after.
Yeah, he was like and if you haven't seen Moon yet, he's going to make it available, so keep a lookout. It'll be available for people to see for free. But it's, I mean, I joke about it all the time, but I'm like, you have full license. Any script you want to send me, I'm going to read it.
Yeah.
Because he just banger after banger. And so as soon as he called me, I was like, yeah, just send me the script. And then so we, and he asked me like, hey, is there anything that doesn't quite make sense to you? What seems a little exposition-y? And so we helped each other kind of smooth it over and make it feel like it's natural. Because especially in that diner scene, like there has to be, we have to clue the audience in on what's going on to a certain extent, and just making sure that it didn't feel so like, there's a term for it in screenwriting. I can't remember what it is, but so it wasn't like just an exposition dump. It was the relationship between these two people and how one person is trying to help the other. And this is how he's doing it, by explaining like, hey, I have the solution to your problem. Yes. Even though it becomes far more of a problem than a solution.
And then you killed him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. That's my bad.
I mean, that's what's amazing about all these endings, because, what did you hope the conversation would be? How we're having this conversation, Marianne, just leaving that, because that happens to so many people around. It was a quick message. It was beautifully shot, and there's a lot of truth to it. Is that what you were after? You just wanted to leave it there. I'm just going to leave this right here and let's see what happens.
Yeah, I think for me, it came down to making a choice on the day, because we definitely ran out of time. And in the script and in my idea, there was a lot more like esoteric kind of graphic imagery, B-roll, if you will. But that would have really been a bigger part. And I kind of had to choose between, are we going to basically tell this story? Are we going to get the pieces that we need to make at least the minimum amount of clarity in the story? Or are we going to play and do all this, crazy imagery we had planned? And I made the split second decision to just tell the story, because you have to tell the story. And that's a lot of what I was wanting to practice doing. But I still think about the imagery that I missed and wanted to get.
Okay, do we have any questions here? Anyone have any amazing questions for? Okay.
I'm curious about timelines. How long did it take to create these projects?
Oh, it's so much longer than I anticipated. I mean, really just so long. I mean, I don't know how long did it.
Yeah, so our film was 19 minutes long, but we spent probably 9 or 10 months producing it. And that's from the beginning of the script to when it's finally finished with sound design and color correction. And it's funny because we only had 7 or 8 days of shooting. And so the rest of that time is preparing to shoot and then trying to piece together what we shot. So yeah, it's a long process.
How long was Accidental Stars?
Oh, I mean, the shooting process, it was basically 48 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, we did it in 2 shoot days, which was really something. But my director, Emily, was also the writer, so she spent a lot of time writing this piece because it's very close to her heart as well. And I was approached in May and we shot it in July. So I assume that with the writing process, it took about 6, 7, 8 months for the whole picture to come to fruition, if that makes sense.
And it's doing well, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is. It is indeed.
It's kind of doing well. It's amazing, right? And are actresses walking up to you and saying, "Hey, can you come here?"
Yeah, no, I honestly, this is my platform to tell all the actresses out there that you're right. Actors, actresses, you're right. Do not trust one individual. You will come to the conclusion on your own. Can I swear? Am I allowed?
I already accidentally did, so go for it.
Okay, cool. I don't give a fuck. The moment I realized I don't give 2 shits, I was so much happier, and my career started to get more fruitful, and I became more whole as an individual. It's helped me out through all walks of life. So as soon as you realize that you are right and you don't give a fuck, everything turns out from the better, and you become a better friend, a better daughter, son, person. There we go. That's what I like to say to all my actors and people out there, for sure.
And I think people who sit and watch amazing films from people's heart and souls, I think the authenticity of the art always speaks for itself. So, what was that? You were, yeah. Okay, I think we have time for just one more question. Does any? Yep.
How did you all gather resources like that you needed for these? Because I'm assuming these were all really budget, kind of like on a shoestring budget.
I mean, I can't. I'm the actor, but I do know that my buddy Emily has a lot of pals, and our entire cast and crew were all of her colleagues who respect her and love her and have worked with her many times. So it was very close to home, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a village, I guess, making a film. It's a lot like birthing a child into this universe. Yeah, but through the workshop, I mean, again, I found a program to shoot on 35 and I went for it. And then the finishing was all done, like she said, with my friends and connections. So.
Yeah. So our budget for this film was $9,000, which may sound like a lot for some of you. I mean, it is a lot, and we were very lucky to have that amount. But to put it in perspective, I was at a film festival in Santa Barbara last week, and there were some other more professionally produced short films about the same runtime that had budgets of over 80,000. And so we were definitely working with a very small budget. Half of that we raised through Indiegogo and crowdfunding, and the other half was just through grant applications and then also personal investments. But so we did it for a little bit of money and a lot of goodwill from the universe and a lot of generosity from everyone around us. Our crew was entirely students who were just eager to get more experience, and also we were able to offer school credit to them, which was very cool. But we definitely called in a lot of favors, which we were lucky enough to have generous people on the other end of the phone offering their cafes and their homes and their gear to us. So yeah, we got this film made just with a lot of persistence, I would say.
Well, we're happy that you did, and here they are, the imposters. Thank you so much.